Hi everybody. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes to see if there's more people who arrive. We've had a number of interested registrations, and so we'll just see if we have a few more who join us. Okay, well, I think it's probably worth getting started. Hi everybody. Thanks for those of you who've said hello in the chat. So what we're going to do is disable the chat for now, but at the end you'll be able to type in your questions and we can answer them one by one. So just to let you know, we are recording this session. We're on the air at the moment, and so just make sure that at the end you don't put any personal details into the chat at all. So my name is Harriet. I am head of our international recruitment and development team. If you want to get in touch, my email is international@aber.ac.uk. And I'll pass over to my colleagues here. We've got David, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello everyone. Welcome to this webinar. My name's David and I'm the Assistant Registrar for Undergraduate Admissions. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about the undergraduate admissions process. I'm also going to cover off on postgraduate admissions this afternoon as well, because unfortunately our colleague Helen is unable to join us due to connectivity issues. So I'll be covering off on undergraduate and postgraduate this afternoon.
And we also have Rosa with us, who can introduce herself.
Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Rosa Soto. I'm the International Student Advisor and I can help you with any questions you have related to visas, and I can offer you support in applying for your visa.
Thanks, Rosa. Okay, so I'm just going to move my location, pop myself over here. So these are the things that we're going to cover today. So we're going to look at the start of term, and I'm sure that's one of the biggest things on your minds at the moment. What is going to happen in September? Obviously, this is a very peculiar time for the whole world. So I'll try and give you as much information as I can about what we're planning so far and what we're thinking of doing. We'll then move on to the checklist for your applications. So first, applying for accommodation. So obviously you should have all made your applications by now anyway, but making your application for accommodation too is very important. Finalising that application, your academic application. Looking at getting your CAS letter and then how to make your visa application. We'll also look a bit about the EU settlement scheme for those of you who are based in the European Union, and looking at fees and finance. We've then got some information about our next online open day and our future webinars, and at the end we'll have the question and answer session, and we've got a number of our staff who are actually watching the webinar as well, so they can help with any regional specific questions if you have any of those. If we can't answer any of your questions, then we'll make sure to get back to you by email. So first of all, we want to reassure applicants and students that we are aiming for as normal as possible a start to term in September. Obviously, there are going to be difficulties around this. We're not going to be able to have the exact same student experience as we would normally expect, but we're really going to try to make it as normal as possible. So for those of you who know Aberystwyth well, or who have at least visited here before, you'll know that we are surrounded by the sea and the mountains. So unlike other universities that are based in big cities, we don't have a huge population surrounding us. We don't have huge numbers of people coming and going from the town. So we feel confident that we will be able to provide a well-prepared, socially distanced campus and prioritise your health and safety and the health and safety of the community with ease, and much more easily than other universities will be able to do. We have actually got a number of campuses. So there's the main campus, which is in the town. We have a second campus in the town as well, which can be utilised. And there are buildings that are not being used at the moment, but will start to be used in September. So we have a huge amount of space that we can expand into to offer socially distanced classes. We'll also be looking at adapting our welcome activities. So our student satisfaction is of paramount importance to us. The last 5 years, we've been ranked in the top 10 of most satisfied students. So that's something that's really important to us. And we're going to make sure that we have those welcome activities as well as possible, observing all the public health guidelines. So we're looking to try and do some of our classes online. So those big lectures where you would normally have 100 students in a classroom, we won't be able to do those in person. We won't be able to do those face-to-face. We will be looking to deliver those online. But where we have seminars and tutorials that are in much smaller groups, that's where we should be able to offer socially distanced teaching. The same for students who need to use studios or need to use lab equipment. We're going to try and make sure that we can do that in a socially distanced way. So there will still be plenty of face-to-face contact with your academic staff and with classmates as well, but there will be some online delivery where we're just not able to keep that distance in place. We also really want to make sure that we support you in arriving to Aberystwyth. So when you land in the country, we'll try and arrange a pickup service to get you to Aberystwyth as quickly as possible. Now, exactly what that's going to look like is still being determined. So in the past, we've been able to encourage students to arrive to Birmingham Airport, and we provide buses. Students get on the buses, we bring them back to Aberystwyth University. What flights are going to look like in September is anyone's guess, really. It could be that flights just aren't landing in Birmingham. It could be that they're going to London. It could be that everything's back to normal. But we are planning to make sure that we have support in getting you to Aberystwyth as easily as possible. We'll also make sure that you'll be able to get into your accommodation easily. What we normally do is arrange for keys to be given out, keys to your accommodation to be given out on the buses while you're journeying to Aberystwyth. And then facilities for quarantine. So this is one of the big things on everybody's minds. So the UK has stated that anybody arriving from overseas will need to self-isolate or quarantine for 14 days. That may not be in place in September, or it may still be in place in September. So we are planning to provide facilities for students to quarantine and providing that support that people will need in terms of buying food for themselves, buying clothes, buying cooking equipment, all of those types of things that are going to be necessary. And I feel confident that we will be able to support students in that quarantine period. So I wanted to include this slide as well, which, as you can see, says, where better to socially distance. So I've been living in London for the last 10 years and recently decided to move to Aberystwyth. And I can't think of anywhere better to be at the moment. So just on your doorstep is the seafront, you've got the beach, You've got the mountains just north of Aberystwyth as well. So as you can see in this top left-hand corner, that's Snowdonia National Park, which is just north of the town. Students sitting on the beach with a bonfire, obviously not something that's possible right now, but in September, hopefully that'll be possible in a socially distanced way. I don't know if you can see the dolphin behind my head there as well. In Islas Sand Dunes is this picture in the middle here. So this is a really beautiful area where there's white beaches and pathways through the dunes, which is a really beautiful area to explore when you're not able to go around the country in a more extensive way. So a bit of a reminder about the campus. So as I said before, we are a town that is surrounded by mountains and the sea. So you can see that the town is sort of down there by the seafront. I might even be able to circle it down here. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, wrong way. There we go. So you can see this is the main town down at the bottom by the sea. Then you've got the Arts Centre up at the top by the campus. So the campus is up here on top of a hill. You have the Sports Centre and the National Library of Wales. So from the town, you can walk up the hill. Now, I must say it is quite a steep hill, which is great because it means you don't have to sign up for the gym, because just walking up and down that hill is probably enough to keep you well fit for the semester. So that's the general idea of the campus. This is the campus from a slightly different angle. So in this picture, you have the town further down to the left. You have the National Library of Wales in the middle there. So that's a really important location for Welsh culture. There's over 6 million books housed in that library. You have the Sports Centre and then the Arts Centre at the top there. So in that centre, there's the cinema, cafe, theatre, gallery, dance school and bookshop. So hopefully some of those will start to reopen over the coming months. The accommodation is just up round the top of the campus there as well. You also have the Students' Union. So there's the bar, the cafe, shop, the societies all take place in there, and then food outlets as well. So I'm sure you're all aware of the location of Aberystwyth itself in terms of the rest of the UK. So you have London down in the southeast, and Aberystwyth is over in the very west coast. Like I say, right by the sea, surrounded by mountains. And as you can see on the map, Birmingham is the closest of our airports. So we will be encouraging students, if they can, to get to Birmingham, and that's where we would hope to provide the pickup service. If not, then London or Manchester are other alternatives. But in terms of getting to and from those cities, it is a relatively straightforward process. So there's just one train that takes you from Birmingham. And if you go from Manchester or from London, it's just 2 trains. So there's one change that you would have to make. It is a relatively long journey. For some of you in smaller countries, it may seem like a long journey. For those of you in larger countries, it may not seem such a long journey at all. So the journey from London is about 4 hours or so. For some of you, 4 hours may seem like nothing, and for some of you, 4 hours may be a lot. But as long as you've got a good book, the scenery outside is beautiful, and you can keep yourself entertained. So your application, as I said before, you should have all made your applications by now. One of the important things to do is to apply for your accommodation, because once your conditional offer of a place on a course changes to an unconditional offer of a place, that's when your accommodation will be allocated. So it makes sense for you to have applied for your accommodation before you get your offer, before you get your unconditional offer, that is. So the different types of accommodation that we have, so Court Mauer, if you can see, I'll try and draw on the map again, up here. There we go, that one. Court Mauer is the most popular with our international students, and that's due to the inclusive accommodation offer that we have, and I'll speak about that in just a moment. Then we have Firm Penglais, which is our more expensive option in terms of our accommodation. So that's recently been built and has slightly more luxurious facilities. Some of the other options are Pentre Jane Morgan, Rosser and Trefloyne. And then there's also the option of living down by the seafront. So some of these student rooms do have a sea view. So dolphin spotting is particularly fun if you live in one of those rooms. Those seafront rooms are not guaranteed. So the average cost is about £85 to £160 per week. Generally, people share social areas, and there are 6 or 7 people in a flat, but you can find studio apartments as well if you want to just live yourself. We do have that option. Now, all our rooms are single occupancy, so nobody will have to share with anyone else in terms of your bedroom. So you share the flats, but you don't share your bedroom. Every room has its own individual bed. But you would share the common areas such as the kitchen and the living room. So the top pictures there, the top 3 pictures are our newer accommodation. That's the Firm Penglais accommodation, and the ones at the bottom are just good examples of a typical room in our other accommodation. Now, I did just mention our inclusive accommodation offer. So this is for international students only, and it means that so international students as in students not within the European Union. This means that your accommodation is included in the cost of your tuition fees. So essentially, you don't pay anything for your accommodation. So it's almost like a scholarship in itself. And you have 2 options. Either you can opt to live in Court Mauer, in which case all your accommodation is free. You don't pay anything except your tuition fees. Or if you opt to live in a different accommodation, which is also university managed, so any of those other halls of residence that I just mentioned, then you will have a £2,000 discount off the cost of the accommodation itself. So that's a really, really good offer, and something that not many other not many other universities are able to offer. For our European students, I'm afraid this offer is not available, but you have the benefit of having cheaper fees in the first place. So we're going to move on now to the meeting any conditions in your offer section. So I'll hand over to Dave here, and I will disappear for a bit, and I'll be back later.
Thanks, Harriet. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to talk about 2 things, but separately. So first of all, I'm going to talk about how you can meet the conditions of your undergraduate offer, and then I'll talk about postgraduate offer as well. So 2 separate ones. So firstly, with undergraduate offers, if you have received any offer of study from us, you'll need to first of all reply to say that you'd like to accept Aberystwyth as your firm choice. So there are a couple of ways of doing this. It depends on how you applied to the university in the first instance. So if you've applied to us via UCAS, on your UCAS track, which is your online portal for your UCAS application, you can add Aberystwyth as your firm choice through that portal. If you have applied to us directly, so that may be that you've submitted to the university an email direct application form, or you've applied via the Aberystwyth University direct portal, you will have received with the offer that we've sent out to you what we call an offer reply form. So all you need to do, if you've applied via either direct application through the website or directly via email to us, on that offer reply form, just complete all the sections on it and return a copy to the undergraduate admissions office via email, and then we can update your applicant record that way. So once you've done that and you're holding Aberystwyth as your firm choice, we do have various conditions that you may have to meet. Now, this depends on the type of offer you've received from us, and this should be clear to you on the offer letter itself. So a conditional offer, as the name suggests, is going to require you to meet certain conditions. And these will all be outlined either on the PDF offer letter that we've sent you if you apply directly, or on your UCAS track if you applied to us via UCAS. Typically, those conditions would be academic conditions. So it would normally be qualifications that you're working towards at the moment. We would normally ask for an overall score, depending on the qualification that you're doing. And depending on the courses that you've applied for, we may also ask you for some subject-specific grades within that qualification as well. Right? As I say, all of this should be detailed in your offer letter anyway. You may be asked to provide some additional documents in there as well. One example of that might be if you haven't already supplied us with a personal statement, you may be asked to include that as part of your overall conditions. Evidence of English language ability. So more often than not, this will be stipulated on your offer as IELTS or equivalent. We do accept a very broad range of different evidence in terms of English language ability. So it's not simply IELTS. There are other tests that you can undertake. And for certain countries, we do accept certain high school or equivalent qualifications, depending on the country that you're from as well. If you're uncertain about that, please, again, just get in touch with the office and we can clarify that for you as well. For those of you who may be concerned that you perhaps had an IELTS test booked and the test centre is closed, please be aware that we've expanded the range of English language qualifications that we'll accept this year. Details of those are on our website on the applicant frequently asked question page, but it includes a range of online testing options as well. So hopefully there's lots of alternatives there for you if you were unable to undertake the final English language test that you had planned prior to the circumstances that we find ourselves in now. The other thing is, if you haven't already supplied a reference, that will also be a condition of your offer as well. So it's a case of gathering up all of these documents and making sure that you supply them to us in good time. What we will be doing, and we've started doing that this week, is writing to all applicants who are international students and pointing out where we have gaps in your documents. So it might be, for example, you receive an email from us saying we're awaiting your final academic grades and your English language qualifications. So that's emails there as a reminder to you. If you haven't received that yet, don't panic. It's just that we're going through the process of sending them out in batches. So hopefully you will have heard from us by next week about the next steps in this process as well. Unconditional offer holders. These are slightly different. What an unconditional offer at this stage normally means is that you've satisfied our academic and language criteria. So it might be, for example, that you sat your examinations last year or the year before, so you've already got those. So we know what your final qualifications are. So what we'll be able to do is essentially we don't require you to send that additional academic information in, but we do require a few other bits and pieces, which I will come on to very shortly as well. If you've got any of this documentation to send in, we will detail how to do that in the email, or alternatively, you can send it to the email address below, which is just detailed in the bottom there. I'm just going to move over onto the postgraduate side for you now. So this is a little bit different. So this is for students who are either applying for our taught masters programs or for perhaps one of our research schemes. So the conditions broadly similar to those that I've just gone over with undergraduate, save for a couple of unique ones for postgraduates. So again, we're looking as part of your conditional offer for you to achieve and provide evidence of your academic grades. Also providing any additional documents that might be detailed on your offer. Again, that could, for example, be a personal statement or a reference. If you're applying for a master's program, so a taught program, normally you're required to supply one reference. If it's for a research scheme, we require 2 references. So there's a little bit of this distinction depending on the postgraduate path that you're taking. We'd also require you, if you haven't already done so, to submit your offer reply form. So when the postgraduate office send out offers, they will also include an offer reply form on there. Again, you just need to return that to the postgraduate office to confirm that you'd like to accept the place and proceed with your application. And one final thing, a financial declaration form. So this is just a series of questions and statements that we need you to read through and sign off on that financial declaration. That again is another part of your conditions as part of this offer. So they're the 2 sides. We're covered off on undergraduate and postgraduate in terms of meeting the broad conditions. There is one other thing that I wanted to talk about before handing over to Rosa, and that is about your CAS letters. So for those of you who are going to be going through the process of applying for a Tier 4 visa, the university will need to supply you with a confirmation of acceptance for studies, so shortened to a CAS letter. And what that effectively says is that the university is able to sponsor you through your Tier 4 application, which Rosa is going to cover in more detail very shortly. Now, in order for us to issue those CAS letters to you, we have to have all the relevant documents in place in order for us to do this. So we can't issue a CAS until we have all of the evidence that you can see listed on these bullet points. And I'll quickly go through those bullet points with you now. So we need copies of your final academic certificates and transcripts, evidence of your English language. So for example, that could be an IELTS certificate, it could be an English GCSE or IGCSE. Have a look on our website because we've got the English language qualifications detailed on there, and we'll have also referred to them in the offer letter that we made you originally. A scanned copy of the photo page of your passport. So we don't need the full passport, it's just the photo page that shows your name, date of birth, nationality, and those kind of details. The financial declaration form, which I mentioned previously, and that is for undergraduate as well as postgraduate. And evidence that you've submitted the £2,000 non-refundable deposit payment. So the deposit payment, again, is a condition of issuing the CAS, and you can make those payments through the Aberystwyth website. There's an online payment portal that you can use. That's the quickest way of kind of doing that. Bank transfer is also there as an option for you as well. If any of that's unclear, then all you need to do is you can ask us questions towards the end of this webinar, and we'll get through as many of those as we possibly can. Alternatively, you can see the email addresses on screen there, and we'll circulate those to you after the webinar this afternoon. Get in touch with either the undergrad team or the postgraduate team, depending on which courses you're applying to, and we'd be more than happy to help and give you some extra advice on that. So I'm going to sign off and hand over to Rosa, who's going to talk to you a little bit more about the visa process.
Thank you, Dave. So I am going to talk a little bit about how to apply for visas. After the session, you'll receive a copy of this whole presentation, and the presentation does have some links which I would advise you to go through. So in your own time, I would advise for you to go through the whole presentation again, have a look at the links that are on it, and take your time and make sure that you understand everything. Anything you're not clear about, just get in touch with us and we'd be very, very happy to help you. So let me just move myself across. So first thing, do I need a visa to come and study at Aberystwyth University if I'm starting in this September 2020? So all non-European students need to apply for a Tier 4 visa, and you need to do that before coming to study at Aberystwyth University. European students will need to apply to the EU settlement scheme, and you can do this after you have arrived to Aberystwyth. Now, I can help you with both of those processes. I can help you to apply for a Tier 4 visa, and I can also help you to apply to the EU settlement scheme. So the first thing that we will look at is how to apply for a Tier 4 visa, which is the visa that's needed by non-European students. So it should all be a smooth process, provided that the first thing that you do is that you prepare all of your supporting documents. So that's your first thing to do. Even if you have not completed the whole admissions process, even if you have not received your CAS from Aberystwyth University, I would advise you to start preparing your supporting documents as soon as possible so that you are able to apply for your Tier 4 visa as soon as you receive your CAS from the university. Now, in the next slide, we will be looking at the list of supporting documents. So the second step, after you've got all your supporting documents, the second step is to complete an online visa application form. And I have a tutorial that you can access on the visa support advice pages. And that tutorial takes you step by step through the online application form, and it's got all the questions and it's got the answers that you need. So you can follow that tutorial if you get stuck. The third step is to book an appointment at a visa application centre. And when you attend that appointment, you will be asked to bring your supporting documents. You will be asked to provide your biometric data, and that's basically staff there will scan your fingerprints, they will scan your face, and they will take an electronic signature. Some students will also be asked to attend an online credibility interview. This is nothing to worry about, and it's really the way that the Home Office, first of all, makes sure that your English is at a level that's required for the course that you will be studying, and also to make sure that you are a genuine student, so that you're coming to Aberystwyth University to study. Now, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, visa application centres have been closed. All visa application centres have been closed, but they are slowly starting to reopen, and the first centre started to reopen on the 1st of June. The Home Office is doing this on a phased way. So if you need to check whether the nearest visa application centre to you is open or not, we have a link on the visa support advice pages. So you can check on there whether the visa application centre that's nearest to you is open. If it's still not open, the expectation is that it will be opening in the next few weeks. So after you have attended your appointment at a visa application centre, all you need to do is wait for a decision from the Home Office on whether your visa has been granted or not. Normally, this takes about 3 weeks. There is a priority service which only takes 5 days for the Home Office to process your visa application. So once you get a decision on your visa application, if successful, which we very much hope your visa application will be, you will be issued in your passport with a 30-day visa. That will be on your passport. And that 30-day visa allows for you to enter the UK. It's a single entry visa, and it just allows for you to enter the UK. After you've entered the UK, you pick up a biometric residence permit, which we also refer to as a BRP, and you pick that up from the local post office, which is about 7 to 8 minutes walk from the main campus. we will provide you with more information once you're in Aberystwyth about how to pick up your BRP. We can help you with that. Now, because of the pandemic at the moment, the Home Office is very aware that you may not be able to travel within your 30 days single entry visa. So if you run out of time and you have not been able to book flights to the UK and your 30-day visa runs out, you need to apply for a new one, but the Home Office is not going to charge you again. They will just issue you with a new 30-day visa, and the process should be quite simple and straightforward. And this process will be available until the end of year. So there's nothing to worry about. The Home Office and ourselves do understand that there might be delays in you travelling to the UK. So everyone's trying to make everything as easy as possible for you. The advice, though, is to make sure that you don't book any travel until you have received your visa from the Home Office and the Home Office has returned all the documents to you. So the supporting documents that we spoke about, this is what you need to start preparing as soon as possible. You need to make sure, first of all, that you've got a valid passport, and this is not due to expire soon. We would recommend that it has 6 months at least validity on it. You will need your CAS letter, which Dave has already been through on how to get that. And you will need to prepare financial evidence. Now, the financial evidence is very, very important. This is the main reason why visa applications are refused. If you don't have the correct financial evidence, the Home Office will refuse your visa application. So we really need to try and avoid that because we want to welcome you in Aberystwyth. So financial evidence, you need to make sure that you have available to you a minimum amount of £9,135 plus your tuition fees. Now, this money must have been available to you, so it must have been deposited in your account for a minimum of 28 days before you apply for your visa. If you are allowed to bring dependents, and it's only postgraduate students that can bring family members to the UK, you need to add the amount of £6,120 to the financial evidence per person. So it's really important that you start preparing this as soon as possible. The other thing that you need as well is you need certificates of any qualifications that the admissions teams have used to issue you with a CAS, and you will have those listed in your CAS letter. Some nationalities are also required to have a TB certificate. And when we send you this presentation, you'll be able to click on the nationalities and it will list all the countries that need to have the TB clearance. Some postgraduate students will also need ATAS clearance, and if you do need it, it will say so in your CAS letter. And any student that's under 18 will also need a consent letter from their parents and a copy of birth certificate, and the letter must say that they're allowed to travel to the UK. All documents are uploaded onto a visa application, so you need PDF copies. Original documents are not needed for the visa application apart from your passport. You will need your passport when you attend your visa appointment because that's where your 30-day visa will go into. So just to look a bit closer at the financial evidence, some students who are from low-risk countries do not need to submit financial evidence with the visa application, but you must prepare it in case the Home Office requests it. The Home Office will do random checks, and they will get in touch with applicants, and they will want to see financial evidence. So if you are from a low-risk country, and you'll be able to check that link when you receive this presentation, even though you don't need to submit the financial evidence with your visa application, it's really important that you have the financial evidence prepared just in case the Home Office requests it. Now, bank statements can be in your name or they can be in your parents' name. If the bank statement is in your parents' name, then you will also need your birth certificate and a letter of support from your parents. Again, I just need to stress that if the Home Office, if you are from a low-risk country, and if the Home Office asks to see your financial evidence and you do not have it ready, then your visa application will be refused. So that's why we need for you to prepare it. Okay, so now we're going to look at how much it costs to apply for a Tier 4 visa. Now, there will be two costs that you will need to cover when you apply for your visa. The first one is the immigration health surcharge, and that is calculated at £300 per 12 months of your visa. That amount is going to go up in October 2020. It will go up from £300 to £470. Now, by paying the immigration health surcharge, this gives you access to national health services here in the UK. So it means that you will be able to access a doctor here in the UK, you'll be able to access hospital treatment here in the UK and other national health services. There are some costs that you will need to pay. If you need dental treatment, for example, it's very likely that you will need to pay for that separately, or if you need a prescription for glasses, you will need to pay for those separately. But by paying the immigration health surcharge, most national health services are included. Okay, so the amount that's payable is calculated on the length of your visa, not the length of your course. All students that are here for 12 months or more will have 4 months of visa added after the end of your course, and you will be expected to pay immigration health surcharge for those additional 4 months, which means that if you're coming to study here on a 3-year degree course, for example, your immigration health surcharge will be £1,050. And if you're coming to study here on a 12-month master's course, your immigration health surcharge will be £450. Those are just examples. And then the other cost that you will need to cover is the visa application fee, which at the moment is £348. Both of those fees are paid online, so just make sure that you've got a bank card and that you've got sufficient funds to cover those. So next, we are looking at European students. So European students are eligible to apply to the EU settlement scheme. The EU settlement scheme has been set up by the UK government to protect European citizen status in the UK following Brexit. So the EU settlement scheme provides evidence that you're allowed to live, work, and study in the UK without having to apply for an additional visa. It's a free scheme. There are no fees. You don't have to pay to apply to the EU settlement scheme, and it's a very easy application process. There are just 4 steps to it. The first one is you have to prove your identity, and you do this with your passport. You complete an online application form. you provide evidence that you are living in the UK, and we will help you with that evidence once you're here. And you have to make a declaration if you have any criminal convictions. Now, I will help EU students to apply to the EU settlement scheme. I will be running sessions from October onwards, and we will go through in more detail how to make the application to the EU settlement scheme, so you're not on your own. Finally, all the information that I've given you is correct as of today, but information at the moment is changing due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So keep up to date, keep looking at our visa support and advice pages. All the information on there is up to date, and I will be updating as soon as I hear of any changes from the Home Office. Any questions that you have, you can email me on immigrationadvice@aber.ac.uk, and I will be able to take questions as well at the end of the webinar during our questions and answers session. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot, Rosa. That's great. So the final point on the checklist for your application. Obviously, we've gone over the accommodation, meeting any conditions in your offer, providing the documents required for your CAS and paying the £2,000 deposit, applying for your visa, and finally, organising to pay your tuition fees. So the tuition fees can be paid in full in September, or they can be paid in 3 instalments over the course of the year. They can be paid online, by bank transfer, or by cash or cheque. And if you have any questions, then you can get in touch with fees@aber.ac.uk. Now, for EU students, you are eligible for the tuition fee loan. So you can find out more information about that on the Student Finance Wales website, which you can see the link there on the slide. For our students from the USA, you're eligible to apply for financial aid, the US financial aid scheme, and there's more information about that and about how we work with the US federal loans on our website listed there. Again, if you have any questions, then you can always email us international@aber.ac.uk. So just to go over the checklist one more time, you've got your conditional offer already. Apply to your accommodation. Where do you want to live when you get here? Meet any conditions in your offer. Provide documents required for your CAS and pay the £2,000 deposit. Then apply for your visa and organise your tuition fee payments. So we just want to give you a bit more information about other ways to find out the answers to any of your outstanding questions. So we have an online open day, which will be running on Monday, the 6th of July. And we've just provided a link in the offers section. You'll be able to actually register straight away through this webinar to the online open day. So we'll have lecturers there, we'll have academics, we'll have people from accommodation, we'll have our admissions staff again and staff from the international office. You can find out all about the different facilities that we have on the campus, and there is also a virtual tour of the campus. Now that's available on the website as well, so you can take a look at that anytime. It's a very well produced virtual tour, so you can see right inside the buildings. You can get a real feel for what life at Aberystwyth University will be like. So I really recommend you register for the online open day. And the benefit there is that you can speak to the departments directly. This is the first of 3 webinars that we will be doing for all of our international and EU applicants. So the next one will be on the 16th of July, and we'll email you again with details of that. The next one will be covering travel plans, what to bring, what not to bring, welcome week activities, and more of an update on what we're doing in response to COVID. So as the weeks go on, we hope to have more definitive plans in place, and we'll be able to give you more concrete information. The next one we'll do after that will be in August, so that will be on the 20th of August, and again we'll send you emails and reminders to sign up for that one as well, and that will cover what to expect in your first semester. I'd also like to mention that we do have various different social media pages. So we have an Instagram account. You can find us at Aberystwyth International on Instagram. So hopefully you follow us already, but if not, get on Instagram. We have a Facebook page as well, and that's also Aberystwyth International. Within the Facebook page, there is an Entry 2020 group. So I really recommend you sign up to that as well. Join the Entry 2020 group, and then you'll be able to meet other people who are also joining in September 2020. So it's a great way to kind of start to make some friends and contacts, exchange details, so you know a few other people who will also be studying there. For those of you who are in China, we also have the Weibo accounts and our WeChat accounts. So if you're not already registered, then find us there on those platforms. So that's the end of the presentation section. We're now moving on to the questions and answers section. So the chat will become available again. So put any of the questions that you've gathered into the chat, and we will be able to answer them one by one. And if you haven't done so already, we also have a little poll. So a question about what you are most looking forward to about starting at Aberystwyth University. So at the moment, we have 57% of people are mostly excited about learning from expert academics. But if you haven't already contributed to that, then please do so. So we've got some questions coming in, and we've got the full team here ready to answer them. So the first one we have is there an approximate date that all lectures will resume in person, such as before November? How can students attend lectures if they're required to quarantine? So our start date that we're planning is the 21st of September. We hope to begin classes shortly after that. And as I was mentioning before in the presentation, the way that we'll be teaching will be a mixture of some online lectures and some face-to-face seminars. So they will resume in person to a certain extent, but with a socially distanced element to them. And it all depends on how the situation progresses. So unfortunately, we're not able to give you any concrete information about that at the moment, but we will be certainly giving you updates as we go on. Next question about when will CAS letters be sent out, this month or next? I'll hand that over to you, Dave.
Thank you. So with CAS letters, the earliest we can send them out is 3 months before the start of our term. So the earliest we'd be able to do that is towards the end of June. However, we can only issue a CAS letter when we have all of the documents in place that I referred to earlier on as well. So if we're missing even one of those documents, we're unable to issue the CAS. So my advice would be to gather all that documentation up now. If you're waiting on your final school results, get all the information you can together now, and then you know that when the final school results come in, you can send it straight over to us. We will do our very best to process the CASs as quickly as we can. However, we are obviously dealing with a higher volume of CAS issuances the further we get into July into August. So we will try and deal with them as quickly as we can. But the sooner you're able to get documents to us, the bigger the time we have to get them issued to you as well.
Cheers, Dave. So the next question is about accommodation and how will students in flats be able to interact? So we're planning on looking at the sort of bubble scheme that's been suggested. across the UK and in several other countries. So students in flats should be able to interact normally. You will become a household. So it may well be that you are encouraged to stay together and interact with each other primarily. So in flats, each person will have their own bedroom, but then you will be interacting in the cooking area, so in the kitchen and in the living room. I think it will be too difficult to keep everyone apart from each other in those flats, and not a very nice experience. So I think that we're moving towards students being able to interact with each other within the flats, and you will become a sort of bubble. But there will be much more information about that as the situation progresses. Do you anticipate that we will have to arrive 2 weeks early before term to account for self-isolation? It's a good question. What has been discussed at the moment is trying to have a staggered entry. So we will be asking students from different courses to arrive at different times. And that's certainly something that we're considering. You know, when should students arrive? Should it be 2 weeks before term? Should it be at the start of term and then you stay in quarantine and do your courses online for 2 weeks? So more advice will be given as we see how the situation progresses, essentially. What we don't want is for all our students to all be arriving on the same day, because that will make social distancing much more difficult. So we're going to try and have different students from different courses arriving over the course of a couple of weeks. A question about, what if I'm a citizen of the UK but have never lived in the UK? Can I apply for the EU scheme? I'll pass that over to Rosa, but I assume that if you are a citizen of the UK with a British passport, then UK regulations will apply.
That's right. So if you have a UK passport, you don't need to apply to the EU settlement scheme. You will register as a UK national, so that there's no further action to take in terms of applying to the EU settlement scheme.
Yeah, so you would be able to get a normal UK loan in that instance. Next question, I've sent an email for deferment but haven't got any response yet. Okay, so that's one, Nafisa, that I'll take down your email address and we'll try and get back to you about that as soon as possible. If you want to resume in 2021, we'll take a look at that.
Harriet, sorry. Could we just ask Nasifa, if you're still on the chat, if you could please let us know whether you're an undergraduate or a postgraduate applicant, just so we can direct that to the appropriate team, please. Thank you.
We'll check the chat again later. Question here from Andrea. If we need to have the bank deposit 8 months before we apply for the visa, how is that possible to be done this September? I think it's 28 days, so just 1 month, as opposed to 8 months. But I'll let Rosa confirm, as she's the expert.
That's right. Hello, Andrea. That's right. It needs to be in place for 28 days, not 8 months. So you've got plenty of time to start saving the money required for your visa as of now. But that's a good point. That's why we really advise students to start preparing the financial evidence as soon as possible. But it only needs to be available to you for 28 days before you apply for your visa.
Thanks, Rosa. Next question from Manish. Hi, I received my offer letter in May. Am I awaiting a reply to the offer reply form before I go out and pay the deposit? I'll pass that one over to Dave.
It's fine. Sorry, you may have seen me glancing away at another screen there. That's because I was trying to find Manish's record as we were talking. It looks as if we have received the offer reply, so you will hear from us, if not this week, sometime next week, with the next steps email that I mentioned, and that will detail in there how to pay the deposit and any other outstanding documentation that we're waiting on as well.
Great. If we have to quarantine for 2 weeks, can we arrive in Aberystwyth earlier so we'll be able to move into our accommodations? I would imagine that the answer to that will be yes, but we can't confirm until we have a sort of finalised plan. So over the next couple of weeks and couple of months, we'll be finalising those details, and we'll let you know. So don't book any travel yet. I think it's best to wait until we have further details. But it's certainly something that we are discussing across the university. Another question, can I live in Courtmauer if I'm a full year graduate student? It only says it's a 39-week accommodation. What's the earliest move-in date? So we do have a postgraduate accommodation in Rosser G. So that's a different halls. You can still live in Courtmauer if you prefer, but you would have to change location at the end of term. So during the summer, you'd have to move into some different accommodation if you went for Courtmauer. If you opt for Rosser G, I think the term is 40 weeks, no longer, 50 weeks. 50 weeks. So if you go for Rosser G, that would be 50 weeks instead. Do EU students also need a CAS letter, or is it only international non-EU? That's right, EU students do not need a CAS. It's only international students who need the CAS letter to apply for their visa.
That's right,
Rosa nodding. Next question. I am worried the borders will close from September due to COVID. Would it be possible to stay at home and have online learning for the first few months and come to Aber a bit later, maybe in January? That's a really good question. And it's something that we are hoping to put into place. So we know that there are going to be a lot of students who either can't get to the UK in September, there just aren't going to be flights, or borders will still be closed. And there are also a lot of students who, for example, are based in the UK, but are sort of vulnerable in terms of having underlying health conditions. So they also wouldn't want to come to campus. Therefore, we are looking to offer an option for online only study. That's hopefully not for the full year. That would be for the first few months until you could actually get to Aberystwyth University, or until the situation changes. Again, we can't confirm specific details about that. We'll have to wait until those have been finalised a bit more. But we are looking to try and have an option for students to begin the classes online and then join us when they can. So yeah, as I said before, we're encouraging everybody to get to Aberystwyth if you can in September, and if you can't, there will be other provisions in place. Would you recommend living on campus over off campus for international students? I haven't applied for uni accommodation yet because I've been weighing on versus off campus. I would recommend living on campus, especially for international students, because then you get the inclusive accommodation offer. So provided you choose university managed accommodation, so any of those that were listed on the slide, and you can look at the slides again after if you didn't see that one, you would be eligible for the inclusive accommodation offer. So essentially, you either get £2,000 discount off the price of your accommodation, or it's completely free. So yes, I would suggest on campus. Or the seafront accommodation is technically off campus, but is still managed by the university. It depends whether you want to walk up that big hill every day or not. If you don't fancy the big hill, stay on campus. If you fancy having the exercise on a daily basis, then go for off campus. Next question, will there be an option for remote learning for the first semester, or will it be compulsory for students to arrive by this September? Thanks. Like I just said, we are encouraging students to arrive in September, but if you can't, then we will be offering, or we hope to be offering, an option for remote learning. More details will follow. Will EU students receive an email to confirm that all documents have been seen in the application portal, or is this only for international students? I'll send that over to Dave or Rosa to answer. I suppose
Sorry, yeah. Hi. I can't speak on behalf of postgraduate because they might have slightly different communications to the undergrad team, which is the team that I oversee. But we don't ordinarily contact EU students because they don't require the level of documentation that we've gone through for non-UK, non-EU students. If you've, in your offer letter, got a particular academic stipulation, like depending on, for example, a high school qualification you might be working towards, or college qualification, please, when you have that final certificate, email a copy over to the relevant team. And then that way we can update your record and we'll know that you've met the academic conditions at that point. But ordinarily, no, you will receive standard central marketing communications, but we won't send a next steps email. So any certificates that you get through over the next month or two, just send them directly to us and we'll update your record accordingly.
Cheers. Next question is, I have a conditional offer letter. I need a scholarship to get admission. I've also applied for the Commonwealth Scholarship, but didn't get any response. Is there any other scholarship available? So we have a scholarships webpage, so I suggest having a look at that in the first instance. There's also the International Excellence Scholarship, so have a look at the details about that one. And of course, the inclusive accommodation offer really reduces the cost of studying at university. Because you don't have to pay that extra for your housing, for your accommodation. It's all included in your tuition fees. Next question, do we need a UK-based bank account in order to receive money from awards? That's a very good question. I'm afraid I don't know the answer there. Anybody else on the board know the answer to that one? No. Matthew, we're going to have to get back to you.
Sorry.
I would imagine that it's not so much that you're receiving money from the awards. I imagine that it's more to do with reducing the cost of your tuition fees. So it would be that you don't have to pay as much as opposed to us giving you the money back, if that makes sense. But what we'll do, Matthew, is double check that and get back to you. So we'll make a note of your email address there and get back to you ASAP. With regards to the visa financial evidence, if we are a US student getting a loan through financial aid, is that sufficient to show financial evidence? Or will we still need to show that we have all the money in the personal bank accounts? One for you, Rosa.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. So if you are getting a US loan and the US loan covers your tuition fees and living costs, which it does normally, we will get confirmation of that and we will get the amount of what you're receiving. And if all your costs are being covered by the loan, you do not need any other additional financial evidence.
Great. The next question from Madeline. I live in the US, but I have a European Dutch passport. Would I need to apply for the Tier 4 visa or the EU settlement scheme? I think that's the EU settlement scheme, but I'll wait for Rosa to nod.
That's right. So if you have a Dutch passport, you would register with that Dutch passport at Aberystwyth University, and then you would apply to the EU settlement scheme. Just as a point of clarification, there are two levels of tuition fees. There is one level of tuition fees for home and EU students, and the other level of tuition fees which are for international students. But in order to qualify for home and EU fees, there is a residence requirement that students have to meet, and that is normally that you would have had to have lived in the UK or in the EU for 3 years before the start of your course. So just by holding a EU or a UK passport doesn't actually qualify you for home fees. So that's just something to clarify. If you need more information, just get in touch either with the admissions team or with myself and we can check things out for you.
It's really useful. Thank you, Rosa. Next question from Chloe about finding information for setting up university email. So I think that will be sent to you later on once you've got your unconditional offer and have accepted it and paid your deposit and so on. So I think that will come with enrolment much later on. Anybody want to add anything to that, or does that sound about right to you guys? Next question. I'm aware that some of the universities in the UK have altered their assessment method to tackle the current pandemic. Therefore, I'd like to know whether Aberystwyth did alter any assessment methods. So currently we haven't made any alterations to our assessment methods, but I think we are looking to change some of them depending on the course. So we may be going for a sort of essay-based assessment as opposed to an exam-based assessment, because it's going to be difficult to get so many students into a room to do exams together. We may be looking to do assignments instead, but that hasn't been decided yet, and you will receive information about it once the decisions have been made. Next question is, I need the financial statement for my UG application. Will my dad's bank statement be good enough? I think that's a yes, but I'm going to refer to Rosa.
Yeah, that's fine. Your father can supply a bank statement, and that's fine to use as financial evidence. But in addition to that, you will need your birth certificate, and you'll need a letter of support from your father saying that he will cover all of your tuition fees and all your living costs. There's a template of a letter that you can use on the visa support and advice pages, and you can use that template and just adapt it for your needs.
Thanks, Rosa. So the next question is, do you know if accommodation offers will also be sent to our private email addresses or only to the Aberystwyth addresses? Furthermore, do you know when emails on how to activate our IT account will be sent? Thanks a lot. I think it's to your private email address, but we do have other people on the webinar right now who may be able to provide a better answer or a more specific answer to that one. And if not, then Katerina, I'll be in touch to find out, to give you the exact answer there. And the same about activating your IT account. I think that will come closer to enrolment. So I think that will come closer to September, but we'll make sure to get back to you about that. Next question, how do I confirm my place as a student? I have received my acceptance letter. I'll pass that over to Dave.
So yeah, if you've received an offer letter and you've returned the offer reply form, so that's if you've applied directly, you're required to submit an offer reply form back to us. We will then contact you with the next steps email I mentioned, which we've started sending out this week. Alternatively, if you've applied via UCAS and you've added us as your firm choice, again, the next step email will be sent to you if you haven't already received it in the coming days.
That's great, thank you. Next question, I'd like to ask, I've got an offer for my 2020 MSc degree. However, with all the uncertainty in the world, I'd like to ask if it's possible to move this conditional offer for the next year or at least to the second semester. Yeah, so if you do want to defer, then you can do that. So you can defer your offer to 2021 instead. We are encouraging students to continue with their study, continue with their plans for 2020. If they can, and obviously it's totally up to you what you decide, but looking at sort of general thinking around the education sector, the question for students is, you know, if you don't go and do that course now, if you don't go and start that program in September 2020, what will you do for that year in between? And if it's something, you know, if you have something other to do, then that's great. But if it's going to be sitting around at home for a year, then the message that's out there is actually it's better to go ahead and carry on with your life, carry on with the learning that you'd intended to do. But of course, this is a decision for every individual, and it depends on your circumstances and how comfortable you feel doing that. So yes, it is possible to defer your entry if that is what you decide you want to do. You won't be able to defer entry to the next semester, to the second semester. It's possible that with an online only option being available for students who really can't make it in September, that you might be able to join later in the year. So maybe you would be able to begin online and then come in January. We are also considering putting some courses on in January with a January start, but that will only be at postgraduate level, and it will only be for some courses, and it has not been decided yet. So I'm afraid we can't offer you any guarantees on that possibility. Is there any chance of the classes shifting online for the first semester if the COVID situation gets worse and international travel is not allowed? As I've just mentioned, yes, there's a possibility. We will be starting in September as normal. All our UK students will hopefully be joining us in September as normal. We are encouraging any international students who can make it in September to get here in September. From some countries that will be possible. From some countries it will be much more difficult. So for those countries and for those students, that's where we would have an option for online study until you can get to Aberystwyth. But we will be confirming the details of that over the coming weeks and months. So there's no guarantees of that, but that's certainly what we're looking to do. I mean, even for our UK students, there will be students who don't feel confident joining us in September, and we don't want those students to miss out either. So we will be trying to put an online option out there for those students who just can't make it. When will the Aber IT account emails be sent out? These are good questions about the email accounts, and I'm really sorry I don't have an exact answer. I think to the start date, so looking more like.
Harriet, do you want me to just add something? It's just because there's there are colleagues that are working in the background trying to send us information. Thank you to our colleagues. We've been told that you'll start receiving emails from the information services team from July onwards, and provided that you have an unconditional offer, you'll be given instructions on how to activate your Aberystwyth University account. And once you follow the instructions, your email account will be activated, and then you'll be able to accept your accommodation offer and start confirming all of your accommodation details, including completing a license pack, which is part of the accommodation agreement with Aberystwyth University. So really, for now, don't expect anything much to happen in terms of setting up your university account. It will all start off, I would say, from sort of July onwards.
That's great. Thank you, Rosa, for spotting those messages coming in from our other colleagues, and thank you very much, other colleagues. Next question, in the case of another outbreak, what has the university planned in that situation, and will we have to stay within the UK or leave, etc.? I mean, that's a really good question, Matthew, and it's something that we have had many hours of scenario planning across the university. So there is thinking around that possibility. But of course, until it happens, we don't know what is going to happen. I think that if the borders close again, then of course you would have to stay in the UK. But I mean, countries have been allowing residents and nationals to come back to their countries if they want to this time. So I would imagine that they would do the same next time as well. One thing to remember with Aberystwyth is that we have an incredibly low rate of infection at the moment, and especially Aberystwyth. You know, as I said before, we have the sea on one side and the mountains around the rest of us, and there is the hospital in Aberystwyth as well. So we have been lucky so far. That's not to say that that things could change, of course, and we will have to look at the situation as it happens. So I don't think we would be sending anybody home. At the moment, as students who have been who were registered while this outbreak happened, some of them have gone home, some of them have stayed on campus. So it's a real mixture, and it very much depended what the students wanted to do themselves. Students are doing a lot of online classes at the moment, so teaching is still going on. And for a lot of students, you know, their belongings are still in Aberystwyth, but they've gone home to their own countries. So we're now liaising with them to get their belongings back to them, and to allow them to come back to the UK when they can to finish off their course, if they've got another year, for example. So we have students' best interests at heart. So we'll be making sure that you guys are as safe as possible in that situation. Next question, do people who already live in the UK have to self-isolate too if they're not from Aberystwyth? That's a really good question, and something that has been discussed, especially by the Aberystwyth Town Council. National legislation, government legislation, does not require anybody who is already in the UK to self-isolate. So I think it's unlikely that we will ask people to, but it is a really good question. Next question, a recruiter from the live chat told me that once I've placed Aberystwyth as my firm choice in UCAS, I should be receiving my unconditional letter. It's been a month. When should we be expecting those? That's one for Dave.
Oh, yeah, thank you for your question. If you've applied to us via UCAS, we would ordinarily do all of the transactions and updates through UCAS. So we don't issue separate offer letters once you've changed your reply. So if you put us as firm, we won't send you a kind of bespoke letter. We'll change the transaction on UCAS. So my advice would be to log onto your UCAS track. If your status is showing as conditional firm, that means that we're waiting for information from you. So that could be your final examination results, for example, before we can change into unconditional, i.e. you've met the terms of your offer. If your status is showing as unconditional firm on UCAS, that's great. You've got the unconditional element of that there as well. But yeah, anybody who's applied to us through UCAS, we send all of the updates to UCAS so that you can see them on your UCAS track page.
Great, thanks for that. Next question is about scholarships again. So we do have a scholarships page. Have a look at that closely. The International Excellence Scholarship is one that would apply. And of course, the inclusive accommodation offer really does reduce tuition fees. And it makes us a much more cost-effective option than a lot of other UK universities. Next question is about an Irish passport holder, and do they need to apply for the EU settlement scheme?
No, there's a special agreement between the UK and the Republic of Ireland, and you do not need to apply to the EU settlement scheme. You can study at Aberystwyth University without applying to the EU settlement scheme.
That's great. Next question for a postgraduate student. If you need to work part-time while studying, how might that work for international students? And do you have any resource? I'll pass that over to Rosa, who will be able to give the official line.
Okay, so if you're an international student, so a non-European student, you will be allowed to work according to your Tier 4 visa conditions. You will be allowed to work for 20 hours per week during term time. For postgraduate students, for example, if you're doing a master's course, the only vacation periods are really the Christmas vacation and the Easter vacation. So you're allowed to work full time during those vacation periods, but the rest of the time you're allowed to work for 20 hours per week. There are no conditions for EU students, so you're allowed to work as many hours as you wish to. And then, do we have any resources? I am part of Student Support and Career Services, and there is a really active career services within the university. They run lots and lots of events and can help you to improve your employability, both here in the UK, and also give you advice about how to enhance your career options when you return home. So we do have resources, and we've got a very active career service that you can access whilst you're a student here. I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Rosa.
No
Next
problem.
question about dual citizenship. Do I still need to apply for a Tier 4 visa? I have never lived in the UK. Also, how are we to buy food, etc. during the 2-week self-isolation, and can we still work part-time? So if I address the food during quarantine question first, we will provide food, we will provide support during that period. So we certainly will be looking after any of our students who need to self-isolate, and we'll make sure that they have food or are able to get food somehow. Working part-time, obviously you won't be able to work while you're in self-isolation, but you would be able to work under the conditions of your visa. If it's a Tier 4 visa, then I think it's 20 hours a week, as Rosa was just talking about. Now, in terms of dual citizenship, I will hand that over to Rosa.
Yeah, I mean, if you got dual citizenship, we will need to see evidence of that. And if you have evidence that you have either UK citizenship or EU citizenship, then you will not need to apply for a Tier 4 visa. But we just need to see the evidence of that. And really, you will be asked to submit your evidence during your admissions process. So the admissions team will be in touch asking you to provide evidence, and if they've got any questions, then we will liaise between myself and the admissions team, and we will clarify things for you.
Thank you. So the next question is about an application, so a postgraduate application, and you haven't heard about an offer yet. So we will follow up with you about that. I've noted down your email address, and we'll chase that up. Next question, when will we know what accommodation we've been assigned to? So you should apply for your accommodation. Then once you've got your unconditional offer and you've accepted that, that's when you will be allocated your room. You'll be allocated your accommodation then. If you've already accepted your unconditional offer and you still haven't got anything, then please email us at international@aber.ac.uk. Next question, what are job opportunities in the area like? I'm specifically asking for my partner. She's especially interested in knowing about farms and such. Well, farms, there's a lot of, and a lot of the research facilities at the university look at farming, agriculture, sustainable food methods. So in terms of job opportunities, it's certainly in farms, it's a very good location to be in. And as Rosa was talking about, we have a fantastic careers office, so we may be able to use their facilities and their support to look for any job opportunities. Next question about deferral for the next academic session. Will I get a waiver for my English language requirement? I'll pass that over to Dave to answer that one.
Hi, it's a fairly straightforward answer, and that's no, unfortunately. So if English language, if you have an English language requirement as part of your conditional offer, whether you're an undergraduate applicant or a postgraduate applicant, whether you want to start with us this September or look to deferring till next year, you would still be expected to meet that language condition.
Thank you. How do I apply for the option to get £2,000 off accommodation fees? So that's an automatic offer. So if you're an international student and you apply for Court Mauer, then your accommodation is free. And if you want to apply for a different one of our accommodation, then you would get the £2,000 off. And yes, I'm pretty sure it's an automatic thing, but we'll just double check. I'm going to ask my colleagues who are watching the webinar to just double check that there aren't any other conditions, and then we'll get back to you there, Louise. Oh, that one maybe just got answered. Is there any deadline for sending in my final grades? Will it be a problem if I don't get them before August due to COVID-19? I already have an unconditional offer if that changes anything. Well, that's great. I think you don't need to send us your final grades then, but I'll let Dave answer that officially.
No, yeah, official answer, as you just said, Harriet. Yeah, if you've got an unconditional offer, then you've met the conditions that were set out for the course that you've applied for. So you don't need to send in any further documentation unless you are an international student, so outside of the UK and outside of the EU, in which case there's those additional documents I talked about. But if you're UK or EU and you've had an unconditional offer, no, you don't need to send any further results through to us.
What will the accommodation system during vacation be, or when is term over? So depending on which accommodation you apply for, it will be for 39 weeks, generally if you're an undergraduate student, or 40 weeks, or 50 weeks if you're a postgraduate student. During the summer, students normally go home, or they find alternative accommodation. So that's something that you would be able to talk to the accommodation team about what to do during the summer when we're on vacation. Next question, what would the monthly cost, including accommodation and living expenses, be per month? So if you're an international student, then the accommodation is included in your tuition fees. So you don't pay anything. If you opt for Court Mauer, you don't pay anything. If you are not an international student, then the cost is around 80 to £100 per week. I'm just going back to that page now, although it might take a while. So I'm going to go with between 80 to £120 per week. Next question, when can more information on online learning first semester be available to us? We hope within the next couple of weeks. We have been told that we'll find out more by the 18th of June, and then more for the 3rd of July. So hopefully we will have more information for you before the online open day that we mentioned earlier. So on the 6th of July, we'll have the online open day, and we hope to be able to give you much more information then. So do sign up and register. There we go, £85 to £160 is the average cost for our accommodation. Next question, I have once deferred and reactivated my admission. Can I still stand a chance of deferring one more time? I couldn't secure a scholarship to fund my study again this year. So would an offer be able to be deferred for 2 years? I'll leave that to Dave again.
I think that's a postgraduate inquiry, so one for us to double check after the webinar, if we could, please.
Okay, great. I'll take down your address, Rakib. Great. I've got conditional offer for my 2020 MSc degree. However, with all the uncertainty with the pandemic, I'd like to ask if it's possible to postpone my conditional offer. So I think we answered that question earlier. It's totally up to you if you want to defer your offer. You can defer if you want to. We are encouraging all students to go ahead with their studies this year if they can, not least because 2021 is going to be really busy anyway, so you're less likely to end up with a place, although if you have an offer now and you defer it, you will still have that offer. The next question from Ali. I got an English proficiency condition for my PhD admission due to COVID situation. All IELTS testing centres have been closed. Can I take Duolingo English test? So Duolingo we are accepting onto our pre-sessional programs, but not onto the main programs themselves. So not onto the degree programs, but you can do the Duolingo test and then come onto one of our pre-sessional English programs, which are being taught online. But Dave, would you like to add anything to that?
The only thing, I'd add, we're going to send after this webinar a link through to our admissions FAQs. I mentioned earlier that we've increased for this year the English language qualifications and tests that we'll accept. So included in that are a range of additional online tests as well, so things like IELTS online. So in the FAQs, have a look there and you'll see there's a range of alternative online tests that you can do as well this year.
Great. Next question about whether Malaysia is considered as a low-risk country. I guess that's with regards to the TB test.
It's in regards to financial evidence. Yes, Malaysia is regarded as a low-risk country, so you don't need to submit financial evidence with a visa application, but you must prepare it in case it's asked for.
How can I defer in 2021? Should I email International Office? The best thing to do is to email the admissions office. So either UG-admissions if it's an undergraduate application, or PG-admissions if it's postgraduate. Next question. Confirmation for eligibility for the GI Bill would satisfy the financial evidence requirements for the visas. Now, other colleagues are working on this because I've seen them chatting about it.
That's right. I think we will need to get back to the applicant. There is someone that can actually deal with that inquiry. Helen has offered to deal with that inquiry. So if they email us, or we'll email them.
So Nina, we actually have a dedicated email address for that. So if Nina, you email USloans, all one word, USloans@aber.ac.uk, they'll be able to help you get the answer to that question. Next question about joining societies. Are students allowed to organise in-person academic related activities under the guidelines of social distancing? Yes, I think as part of the Students' Union, you are able to suggest any new club or any new society that you want to. Absolutely, under the guidelines of social distancing will be key this year, but certainly, yes, that's something that's very much encouraged. Next question, if I pay the first instalment of my tuition fees before submitting my application for the UK visa, will I still have to show the full amount of the fees for my visa application? One for Rosa.
Okay, if you pay the first instalment, then you can deduct that amount from your financial evidence. But at the moment, we wouldn't really advise for you to do that. I think because of the uncertainties surrounding COVID, we're not asking students to pay any of their tuition fees in advance. The first instalment's not due until late September, early October. So I just don't think you need to be paying any of your tuition fees at the moment, and I would advise for you instead to prepare the financial evidence and to make sure that you've got that money available to you. You've got plenty of time at the moment to prepare the financial evidence.
Great. Next question, is it allowed to travel to Aberystwyth with my car and not by train or plane? That's a really good point. And yes, you would be allowed to travel by car. Obviously, you'll have to drive to one of the ports on the continent. So generally, I think people come across via France and then drive over to Aberystwyth. But in that instance, I'm pretty sure you would not need to self-isolate. So that's the conundrum of the government guidelines, and actually it may be a more attractive option. Next question, is it better for a full year graduate student to use the free housing option 1 and have to move at the end of the semester, or stay in ROSA G from the start? That's totally up to you. So ROSA G has 50 weeks, as you know, but it will be slightly more expensive. So you would have to pay that little bit extra each week, rather than if you stayed in Courtmauer for the duration, then it's completely free, and then you just pay the little bit extra once you move to ROSA G or elsewhere. So it's completely up to you, and it would be to do with your financial preferences, really. Next question. How do I confirm my place as a student? So Dave, do you want to quickly answer that one?
Yeah, no problem. I'm sorry if you missed it the first time round when we were going through it, but all you need to do, if you've applied to us via UCAS, you can, on UCAS track, put us as your firm choice there, and we'll automatically receive an update to let us know that you've done that. If you applied directly, so that is, you've either submitted an application through the Aberystwyth University website, or you've emailed an application directly to us. With your offer letter, you will have received an offer reply form. So you just need to complete a copy of that and email it back to us, and we will update your applicant record accordingly then.
That's great. Another question. So this is about final classification and whether Aberystwyth University will take into account all 3 academic years of an undergraduate degree into account, or only the final 2 years. So I think that it's the final 2 years. I don't think the first year counts towards your final classification. So I think it's years 2 and 3, but I can see that you're applying for undergraduate law. So if it's not that, then I will email you back. I'll send you an email, son. So I've got your email address there, and I'll be able to get back to you. So I think it's years 2 and 3 that we take into account for your final grade, but if it's not, then I'll be in touch. Next question, will the university be offering supplemental language courses, ones that are offered in both weekly and intensive course portions? I do believe it is the Modern Language Programme. I don't know the answer to this one, I'm afraid, Hannah. So we do have English language courses which are delivered and can be attended if you want to. We also have Welsh language classes, which I think are free of charge to students if they want to join. But in terms of the Modern Language Programme, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to follow up on that. So I'll note down your email and I'll reply to you. Next question, does the European Health Insurance Card cover access to the NHS? One for Rosa there.
Yes, it does, but you need to apply for your European Health Insurance Card from your home country before you come to the UK. That's only eligible to European students.
Great. And the next question is about the Greek army. So can the university provide documentation that I'm studying there in order to postpone my service? So you should be able to use an unconditional offer, an offer letter as proof that you will be studying. In terms of, I would imagine that our academic registry would be able to complete a letter, provided you had enrolled, and we would be able to write a letter confirming that your enrolment. And I guess it depends on what the Greek army need to see in terms of evidence that you will be studying. So perhaps you can email us again. Email us at international@aber.ac.uk, and we can discuss that in more detail. On your question, I think it was you, Matthew, your question about having a UK bank account. Yes, if we are giving you a financial award, you do have to receive it into a UK bank account. So you would have to set up a UK bank account before we can make that payment. Next question, has international travel opened for the UK? Will be able to travel to the UK by September. So international travel is open. Not many people are travelling here. Not many people are travelling anywhere, but it is open as such. What that will look like in September, I'm afraid I have no idea. I think things will begin to open further. Every 3 weeks, the UK Prime Minister is making more exceptions to the restrictions that have been in place. So things are slowly opening up. So we do hope that by September, it will be fine to travel to the UK. But who knows? A few messages of thanks, absolutely no problem. Another question from Holly, what's the difference between Court Mauer Band 1 and Band 2? Current students told me Band 1 is more expensive because it has bigger rooms and Band 2 is newer. Is that true? Yes, 1 is slightly more expensive because the rooms are bigger, exactly. Yeah, the slightly more expensive one has slightly bigger social areas. So the kitchen and the living room are slightly larger. Neither one is newer than the other, I don't think. But in terms of if you're an international student and you are applying for it, the price is the same anyway. It's free either way. Next question, do I only get my accommodation offer when I send in all my grades for my conditional offer? Does that mean I might not get the accommodation place I want? That's right, yes. So your conditional offer will change to an unconditional offer when you get your grades. And once you have your unconditional offer, that's when your accommodation is allocated. But just remember that all students are in the same position. So everyone is waiting for their grades. In the UK, the grades don't come out until August. So everyone's waiting for the same situation. Next question, what happens if I won't be able to get my final grades before August due to COVID-19? I'll pass that one over to Dave.
That's fine, no problem. As Harry has just said in answer to the last question as well, it's not unusual for applicants to not get their final qualifications until August. That's when the majority of summer examination results are published. I'd say as soon as you can get them to us, the quicker we can update the status of your application. I obviously don't know your own personal circumstances and whether or not you're applying for a Tier 4 visa, but if you are, it's the same point that we were mentioning earlier on. Get as much of the documentation together now, and then you know that when you get your final results through, that's the only missing bit you'll have, and then you can send us everything sort of in bulk, if you like. If you are applying for a Tier 4 visa, there is also a slightly fast-track route if it's going to be fairly late into August that you're not expecting these results for. Then, Rosa, do you want to mention perhaps something on that fast-track route?
There is a priority service that you can use. There's an additional fee of I think it's approximately £100, and you should get a response within 5 working days. There might be a slight delay now with the COVID-19 situation, but it does prioritise the visa application.
That's great. So the next question is Natalie again in response to my answer earlier, so you don't have to isolate when you arrive by car. I'm going to double check that before I confirm an answer there. That's what I think is the case, but I'm not 100% sure. So if any of our colleagues are currently Googling things behind the scenes on the webinar, can you find out if you do or don't have to self-isolate if you're arriving by car? And now we're on to the final questions. We've overrun a little bit there, but I think it's good to get through these questions. If I'm doing my first year in life sciences as a foundation year, then transferring to my desired 4-year BSc science course, would I need to state that when I apply for my visa, or will I have to apply for another visa? Good question. I'll hand that over to the visa expert.
This I might need for Dave to come in, but I presume that the application is made to the foundation plus the degree course.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, and Dave can confirm this in a minute, if that's the case, then your visa will be issued for the whole duration of the course. So it'll be issued for the foundation plus the degree course. If you then decide to change that at any point, then we can provide you with advice. But yeah, Dave, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, of course. Rose is absolutely correct. The Life Sciences scheme is a 4-year program that has an integrated foundation year as part of it. So students would normally do the foundation part of that 4-year scheme and then migrate over to their chosen course. But it's a standalone scheme, so they're not two separate schemes. So there shouldn't be any requirements if you're sticking on the 4-year Life Sciences, first year foundation, and then going on to a different pathway. You wouldn't be required to apply for sort of a different scheme at that point.
That's great. Natalie, your question about self-isolation if arriving by car, it doesn't seem to be mentioned on the government website. So I take back what I said about not having to self-isolate if you're arriving by car. We'll have to double check that. Okay, the last few questions here. Are there any ATMs on campus? I'm going to have to divert to Rosa or Dave on this one, I'm afraid.
There are, yes, there are. There are two on campus.
Yeah.
Just trying to think now. There is a small supermarket at the top of campus as well that's got another one, and obviously the banks and building societies in town, which is only about a 10-minute walk from campus. They're well served by ATMs as well.
Thanks for that. So Marie asks if we know of any additional financial support that can be applied for international students, apart from the university scholarships. So the International Excellence Award is there. Do have a look on our scholarships website, and remember that the inclusive accommodation offer means that your accommodation is basically free if you go for the Court Mauer option. So that will be reduced costs. Okay, so I think that's the end of the questions there. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. It's been great to have you here and to ask us all these questions. And we really hope to be able to meet some of you in September. We know that it's a really difficult time and it must be very difficult making the decision as to what to do right now, but we're going to try and keep you updated with as much information as we can over the next couple of weeks and months. And fingers crossed, everything settles down a bit and goes back to normal. Okay, thank you so much, and thanks to Dave and Rosa. And if you have any other questions, please do get in touch on international@aber.ac.uk, UG or PG -admissions@aber.ac.uk, or visa immigration advice@aber.ac.uk. Okay, thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.